If you head out to the supermarkets at this time of year, what you're going to see is masses and masses of pumpkins. And obviously it's great for the kids to carve them and do great things with them at Halloween, but it's such a waste because quite often we carve them and we take the flesh out, chuck it in the bin and don't use it, which it's a real shame. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how to make a fantastic sweet pumpkin pie, and it's really, really easy to do. It's a bit of an American classic, and it's not something that we cook that very much in the UK. So basically we'll start off with, this is the beautiful pumpkin that we've got, and we need to get inside it, and to do that you need a really heavy duty knife. If it's like got a flexible blade, you're not going to get anywhere. So, and it does require a bit of elbow grease, so bear with me 1 second. There we go. The best thing to do is, rather than kind of cutting it straight in half, is just kind of cut it into wedges that you can pretty much manage, she says. Let's have a go. It is fantastically tough, the skin, but once you get into it, there you go. Let's have a look at that. So you get this really beautiful flesh, the orange flesh, and these seeds in here, which you obviously need to get rid of. You can actually eat them if you want, but I'm just going to get rid of them because we don't need them for this particular recipe. Oops. What I'll do is, just got a nice sturdy spoon, scrape the seeds out, pop them into a bowl, and that's what you're left with. So let's get him set to one side. Now, you can't really use a vegetable peeler for this job because, as I say, the skin is just so tough. So just go into it with your knife and just get it into nice manageable sized pieces. And again, using the same knife, just take the skin off. So I'll do all of that, which will take me quite some time. What I've done is I've weighed out the pumpkin. I've got as much as I need. Something else I should have said to you actually is, if you do go to a supermarket or you fancy cooking this recipe and there are no pumpkins around, that every supermarket will have butternut squash and you can quite easily substitute it, so don't worry about it. So as I say, we're all ready to go and start cooking the pumpkin. Now, I know some recipes for pumpkin pie actually say steam the pumpkin, but I prefer to roast it because what happens is you end up with this really lovely kind of intense sweet flavour, and you don't lose it. You know, if you're adding water to it by steaming, you're going to lose a little bit of the flavour. So I'm going to roast it. So I've got a roasting tin here. I'm just going to roughly chop it. Doesn't have to be all the same size. Just keep it a little bit rough and ready. There we go. Actual fact, I reckon that might be about enough in there. So that's all done. Put that to one side. Now the flavour, the fantastic flavours that you get in sweet pumpkin pie comes from this beautiful mixed spice, which just smells divine. So I'm just going to scatter that over the top, like that, just a couple of small teaspoons. And then I'm going to pop some butter onto the pumpkin as well, so it kind of roasts in the butter, and it'll make it give it a lovely rich velvety texture. So that's all ready to go now. So I'm going to pop that in the oven, probably about 45 minutes until it's nice and tender. Right, the first step when it comes to making the pumpkin pie is we've got some ready-made short crust pastry, and we're going to use that to line this fluted tart tin. I've trimmed it down a little bit because we don't quite need the 500 grams. And the trick when you're lining a round tin with what is essentially a square piece of pastry, if you get it kind of shaped into a round before you even start to kind of roll it, it will make life a heck of a lot easier. So I'm just trying to take the corners off it a little bit and get it moving into something that kind of resembles a circle. So a little bit of flour on the surface. You can always add more if you fancy, if you need it. And the other thing, if you take the pastry out of the fridge just 10-15 minutes or so before you start rolling, it will make life a little bit easier. So let's just start getting that into a circle. And really, when you do this, if you try not to kind of roll backwards and forwards like this, because what will happen is you'll stretch the pastry, and then when it kind of bakes off in the oven, it's going to shrink back again. So try and roll in just one direction. I should say something else as well. The thickness when you're lining a tart tin like this, what you're aiming for is probably pastry that's probably about as thick as a pound coin. Anything thicker than that, what will happen is you'll end up with this really soggy pastry base. So just keep going. And the fact that it's not quite a perfect circle really doesn't matter because we're going to trim that anyway. So just pop that on. I think we need to go a little bit bigger with the circle. I'm starting to get a bit sticky there, so I'll just pop some more of that on. You know what, I think we're just about there now, so that should be fine. So to get it onto the tin, pop it over the top and just roll it onto your rolling pin like that. Pop it over and then just tuck it down a bit. You can be quite firm with it, it shouldn't rip, and if you do get any holes or anything, don't worry, you can just patch it up with extra bits of pastry. Now what I'm going to do with that, because we've kind of rolled it and messed around with it, I'm going to pop it in the fridge just to rest and chill for probably about 15-20 minutes. Okay, so I've got the pastries come out of the fridge and it's nice and chilled and it's had time to kind of relax a little bit. And what I'm going to do is just keep pressing it into the edges of the fluted tart tin like that, just to get it moulded into shape. And then what you need to do is just take a sharp knife, whatever size you're comfortable with. This is my favourite knife, so. And I'm just going to go around the edges like that and take off the excess pastry. There we go. And now it looks a bit rough here, but don't panic about that. What I'm going to do is just using your finger and thumb, just press the pastry so you're kind of fluting the edges, and I think it looks really nice when it's a sweet tart. It looks a lovely thing to do, and it's once you get the knack of it, it's quite easy. So I just go all the way around, and you see immediately it looks a lot neater. Oops, go back over. So now pretty much it's ready to go in the oven to bake it blind, which basically means that if you filled it now with the pumpkin filling, this would just stay really soggy. So what you need to do is just line the pastry with some greaseproof paper or baking paper, and then just tip some beans in. And what that will do is that just helps the pastry keep its shape as it cooks off in the oven. So what I'm going to do is pop this into the oven and then give that probably 10 or 15 minutes and we'll come back to it then. Right, so finally the pumpkin is ready. The kitchen smells absolutely amazing. So I'm just going to take it out of the oven. And you can see the butter's melted. The smell is just amazing. And what I'm going to do is pop it into this food processor. So let's get that open and started, ready to go. And what you want to do is make sure you can see all these fantastic buttery juices in there. That's full of flavour, and that you need to get that in the processor as well, because it's going to give it a lovely kind of rich velvety texture as well. So very carefully, this is boiling hot. Just tip that into the processor. There we go, and pop that to one side. I'm just going to pop the lid on that and whiz it round for a little while. Right, I think that's probably just about done, because what you're after is a nice kind of smooth consistency. At this stage, what you can do is you could actually pass that through a sieve to get rid of any lumps and bumps, but you know what, I just think it's going to taste great as it is. So that's all ready to go. Next thing we're going to do is I've got a pan here. I'm going to heat up some double cream. So just pour that in. Put that there. Okay, there we go. So what I'm going to do with that is the milk's just going to warm up nicely, and that means that when I'm going to put this sugar into the milk, give it a nice stir, the sugar will dissolve really quickly. So that'll take just a few minutes. The cream's nice and hot now, and the great thing about double cream is you don't actually have to worry about it curdling when you heat it, because you can actually boil double cream and it won't affect it at all. So what I've got is some caster sugar, tip that into there and give that a little stir, if you can see in there. And that, because it's nice and warm, dissolves really, really quickly. So I'll just set that to one side. Now the next thing I'm going to do is go back to this lovely pumpkin mixture and add an egg to it. Just pop that in there. And next I'm going to add this lovely creamy sweet mixture, and that's all the ingredients we need. So just tip that in and make sure you get all of the sugar in there as well. And I'm going to give that one more little blitz with the food processor, and it's ready to pour into the pastry case. Just take a quick look at that. It does smell amazing. There we go, and that's it, all ready to go. So the pastry's just come out of the oven. It's really nice and crisp and golden. So what you need to do is get rid of that paper and those baking beans. Pop those to one side, and it's ready to be filled. So we've got the lovely mixture that we made earlier on. I'll just give that a little stir because it's settled a wee bit. That should be fine. I'm just going to pop that into the pastry case. There we go. That should be perfect. There we go. And I'm going to pop that onto a baking sheet just so it's easy to carry, and I'm going to pop that in the oven for probably about 45 minutes to an hour, quite low, until it's just set. So that's it, the pumpkin pie's ready. If you can just see, it's set, but it's still got a slight, if you shake it, you've still got a slight wobble just in the centre there, and that means it's absolutely perfect. So what you need to do now is just let that sit for probably about half an hour to an hour, just to let it firm up a little bit, and then you can slice it, and it's just perfect with some double cream.